If this is a cost of living election, the ever-rising cost of putting a roof over your head is at the heart of the debate. Both parties have pledged billions of dollars to solve the problem, with the bulk of the money aimed at first home buyers. Experts want to know where the money's coming from, while others point out tax deductions and handouts will inflate the housing market. Tonight we're in Berwick, in the electorate of Bruce, in the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne, to find out what voters really think about the respective parties' policies. On our panel tonight, the independent MP for Warringah, Zali Steggall, the Deputy Mayor of Melbourne, Rashina Campbell, Claire O'Neill is the Labor Minister for Housing and Homelessness. Michael Sukkar is the Shadow Minister for Social Services, NDIS, Housing and Homelessness, and the Executive Director of the Australia Institute, Richard Dennis. Welcome to QandA. Our next question comes from Georgia Haysom. Hi, Georgia.
Hi. As a 25-year-old full-time teacher, I'm doing everything right, working hard, saving where I can and trying to get ahead. But even with a stable job, I'm finding it near impossible to break into the housing market. How can young Australians like me hope to own a home when wages haven't kept up with the cost of living?
Well, Richard, this is a very common story. Georgia, you've spoken for your generation. Richard, are the policies going to answer that question?
No, they're not. Thanks, Georgia. And I'm sorry that you're in that situation, and I'm sorry that in the middle of an election campaign, we're not actually talking about how to fix that for you and so many people like you. Let's be clear. 10 years ago, Joe Hockey said, you know, if you can't afford a house, go and get a better job. Go and get a better job. Well, we did the numbers on this recently, and if you'd have taken his advice at the time 10 years ago and you had an average full-time wage job, and for the last 10 years you'd be saving, you'd be $1,000 further away from a deposit on an average house in Sydney today. Having saved for 10 years, you'd be $1,000 further away from the deposit because house prices are rising faster than incomes. This is not complicated. As long as house prices are rising faster than wages, you can't catch up. And I'm sorry, but it's a cruel hoax for people to tell you that, a tax break here or something or other there is going to help.
So just let me get some clarity. I mean, obviously, Georgia's really stressed about her own situation. Are you saying neither of the major parties' policies will substantially help people like Georgia?
No, because, imagine you're at an auction and you went to everyone at the auction and you gave everyone $10,000. The only person you've helped is the person selling the house. So this auction where we're giving cash to people, whether it's everybody, whether it's investors through the capital gains tax breaks, whether it's some first homeowners buying some first houses, when we go to auctions and we give some people a bit of cash, we make them feel great. All right, but you're just changing who misses out at the auction. House prices in Australia have risen so much faster than incomes that a whole generation's been left behind.
So let me bring in Rasheen. Georgia, I want to go back to you. You've heard the major parties, and they'll have more to say, of course. Do you feel satisfied that they provide you a pathway to home ownership?
I think there's a few things in terms of, yes, you can access your super, but how does that help you as a young female living on your own? We know that young females usually have less in their super. How's that going to help us in the long run?
So that's not an answer for you? How about whether you could tax deduct a new build? Would you want to do that?
Potentially. I guess we'll have to say.
But again, helping one person helps. It seems to help them. That's the cruel hoax. Right? We can find anyone in the audience and say, imagine we helped someone in your circumstance. Wouldn't you feel special? But we haven't actually helped fix the audience's problem. We're just helping fix one person or one...
But isn't it lots of one people?
We're helping lots of individual people. So, Georgia, you are, in a sense, the target market of our policy suite. So there are two...
Well, OK, let's not laugh about it. Is it about voters or is it a substantial policy?
No, this is... I mean, look, I have arguments with Claire all the time in Parliament, but I can assure you most of us get up in the morning thinking about how we can maintain home ownership for the next generation of Australians, genuinely.
These big pledges cost a lot of money. We asked the former head of the Department of Treasury, Dr Ken Henry, for his commentary on the election, and that was just before this weekend. Here he is.
Elections are usually fought on short-term cost of living issues. Our politicians, they compete with scare campaigns and band-aid solutions. But when you think about it, most short-term crises are the consequence of long-term policy failure. Key ingredients in our cost of living crisis are weak real wages growth, unaffordable housing and high energy costs. And the causes of these have been building for a long time. To avert an intergenerational tragedy, the next Australian government must do three things. First, it must reform the tax system to boost business investment and productivity, to improve housing affordability, and most importantly, to take the burden of balancing the budget off the shoulders of young Australian workers. The second thing it must do is it must put Australia on a more certain and more ambitious carbon abatement trajectory. And then the third thing it must do is to fix our broken nature laws, to prepare the environment and to provide certainty for business investment, including renewable energy projects.
Dr. Ken Henry there. We wanted to include some experts also in this show. There are some big ideas that they would like embraced. Richard, they're clearly not the main issues of this campaign. Is that reasonable?
Oh, well, it's reasonable, but it's not good. I mean, let's be clear. Like, I'm an economist, so apologies. The only thing
to apologise first, yeah.
The only thing that's going to bore people more than talking about budgets is talking about tax reform. But let me make it exciting for you. Australia's one of the richest countries in the world. We're the third biggest fossil fuel exporter in the world. And in Saudi Arabia, when the price of oil goes up, they feel rich. And in Qatar, when the price of gas goes up, they feel rich. But we've so cooked our tax system that in Australia, the third biggest fossil fuel exporter in the world, when the price of oil and gas and coal go up, we feel poor. We call it an energy crisis. We call it a cost of living crisis. Now, in Norway, which is also a big fossil fuel exporter, they tax their fossil fuel industry and give their kids free university education. In Australia, we subsidise. But get this, in Australia, we subsidise the fossil fuel industry. We give more than half of the gas we export away for free, and we charge our kids a fortune to go to uni. Tell me politics is boring. Tell me budgets are boring.
All right.
When we elect people, when they form budgets, they're the big choices that we get to make. We're choosing to be poor. We're choosing to have expensive childcare, expensive health, expensive education. Other countries tax their fossil fuel industry.
I disagree with Richard to a degree. I mean, some of our biggest taxpayers in this country are the mining companies who literally do pay for the... Well, it's true.
Not the gas industry.
No, I'm talking about, BHP.
I was talking about gas.
Well, BHP Billiton would be one of our biggest taxpayers.
And I was talking about gas, not BHP.
Okay, well, I thought you were talking about miners in...
No, I said gas.
Gas industry.
So the next question is from Steve Whittington. Hi, Steve.
Good evening, panel. Since the last federal election, my mortgage repayments have gone up by 16%. My electricity bill by 12%. My council rates 20%. My grocery bill 17%. My private health cover 32%. All of this despite continually shopping around and using comparison sites to source the best deals. In the same period, my salary increased by only 7%. It doesn't take a mathematical genius or an economist, Richard, to see that I've gone backwards in real terms in only 3 years. What are the parties doing to rein in spiralling costs and boost wages for middle-income families?
Steve, great question. I'm going to keep you standing. And Steve, you've got a lot of fans in the room. I mean, how many people have a similar story there to Steve? Put your hand up. Whoa, okay, it's a lot of hands. So this is a common story in our country and a common story in this electorate, which is an electorate that's being hard fought over. Steve, what could they do that would change your situation?
As a homeowner, and I appreciate I'm fortunate compared to a lot of people we're talking about, people are fixated on the price of their homes, the value of their homes always going up. I'm not. Let's try and keep that down. We need to change the tax. We need to have structural tax reform with housing, and we need to do something about wages because we just do not have the bargaining power. I feel powerless negotiating where all the companies on which I'm reliant are putting up their prices by more than inflation every year.
Yeah, that's Steve. It's wow. And that's very briefly from you, Richard. I've got to say, I need to get to the audience questions. That's why I'm interrupting.
Steve, there's something really simple that could happen tomorrow. The Reserve Bank could meet and cut interest rates. It's the Reserve Bank that told the biggest lie before the last election. The former Reserve Bank governor said rates wouldn't go up until 2025, and then they increased them more than a dozen times. They should have postponed the last meeting until after Donald Trump had his meeting. They should have cut rates the next day. Inflation is already in the target range, and there is no good reason that we've kept rates so high for so long. The Reserve Bank has posed enormous pain on people.
I'm going to get to our next question from Stuart Brown. Hi, Stuart.
How are you going? I'm a local small business owner, and we're doing it tough as well. You talk about putting wages up. Super has also increased 2.5% over the last few years. And our power bills obviously keep growing as well. Power bill relief doesn't stop our rent and our supply costs from climbing. And the instant asset write-off still relies on us having cash to actually spend to get any benefit from it. So it's really no benefit at all. When will you stop taking the easy route of making yourselves look good by announcing billions of dollars of policies and running up a bill on the Australian public's afterpay account, and actually tell us when you're going to deliver what will create a sustained real difference to Australia's largest employer, which is small business?
Next question, which comes from Marge Richmond. Hi, Marge.
Hi, everybody. As a retiree of 10 years, after 50 years in the workforce, my question is this. How can the government expect us to believe that they know everyone is doing it tough when the latest pension increase for a couple equates to 25 cents a day each? Every bill we pay has risen significantly. I find such remarks insulting, to say the very least. Actions definitely speak louder than words in this situation.
Marge, I know that you are really, really fired up about this. Just tell me about that sense of despair you feel. Do you feel like you've been ignored by Canberra?
Yes.
Why?
Well, after 50 years in the workforce and paying tax and bringing my children up and all the costs associated with that, and now as a pensioner expecting to not have an easy life but have a comfortable life, and now we're having to watch the money that's coming in and the huge amounts that are going out.
And how much are you watching it? Just give me a sense of what that is like.
Well, just constantly watching and worrying, particularly in winter when the gas bills are coming in, like you've got to turn on, or we better not turn it on until 5 or 6 o'clock, and we better turn it off at 9 o'clock. You know, it's ridiculous.
Richard.
Well, let's square the circle here. We've just heard Steve worry that we're spending like crazy. We've just heard Marge say we're not spending enough. Now, that's okay. We're one of the richest countries in the world. What we need to do is figure out what our priorities are. Now, the unspeakable truth in Australian politics is that Australia is a low-tax country. According to the pinko lefties at the OECD, Australia would have to collect an extra $100 billion a year, an extra $100 billion per year to become average.
Well, some parts of the community feel high tax.
Absolutely, they do. And this is the beautiful thing about democracy. The gas industry isn't paying any tax. Marge isn't getting enough money. Steve's worried about the deficit. The only way to square this circle is to bring the conversation up a couple of levels.
Well, we've been doing that, I think, here.
Well, but we still need to admit something really simple.
And what is that?
Matthias Cormann's the head of the OECD. Remember him, the Liberal Party finance minister?
Yeah.
The OECD says we're one of the lowest tax countries in the developed world. That's why you're worried that we're spending too much, because we're not collecting nearly enough tax. Last year, the big banks made $18 billion in profit on your mortgage. The average mortgage pays $200,000 in profit over its life to the banks. The supermarkets made an extra $1 billion last year because their profit margins went up. The health insurance companies made record profits last year, but they want to put the premiums up. Now, we live in a rich country. We feel poor. We can either collect more tax from the big businesses that can afford to pay it, or we can say, sorry, Marge, you've had it too good for too long. But we can't pretend to have both.
Okay, well, on another issue, which I think in some ways is adjacent to the issue Marge raised, Labor has also delivered increases to the Jobseeker allowance, but not nearly enough, according to some. Independent economist Nikki Hutley argues there's economic upside in much bigger Jobseeker increases.
Australia's statistics on wealth and income inequality make for very sombre reading, and they've been deteriorating in recent years. The lowest 20% of income earners take just 6% of the pie, whilst those at the top 20% take 9 times that amount. And of course, those on Jobseeker payments are the worst off. They're living well below the poverty line, unable to afford rent in most places, meals, medicines, kids' educational needs. This is not acceptable. New research just last month has shown us that if we invest $1, we will get $1.25 returned back to us. Now, that is a very solid return on investment in terms of healthier people, lower government payments, better productivity. It is a win-win outcome. Indeed, the government's own Economic Inclusion Advisory Committee last month recommended that Jobseeker be increased to be 90% of the aged pension. The gap between those two has been widening over the last few decades. They want to see it narrowed. When will you act to see this happen and restore dignity to those most in need in Australia?
I can save you a fortune. $15 billion a year in fossil fuel subsidies. $15 billion a year. AUKUS, $360 billion. Didn't go to Treasury. Didn't go to Treasury. And when Josh Frydenberg was asked, can we afford it? He said, you can always afford it if it's a priority. He's right. He's right. We're one of the richest countries in the world. We're so rich we can drop a lazy $360 billion on some nuclear subs we didn't know we need. But sorry, unemployed people, money doesn't grow on trees, you know.
Yeah.
We're rich.
Okay. Well, our next question comes from Ashleigh Vout. Hi.
Hi. In recent days, Senator Jacinta Price made comments about making Australia great again. The media jumped on this as a correlation with Trump's Make America Great Again policy. My question is, what is actually wrong with making Australia great again?
Rashina. Wait, Richard?
Oh, look, I'd like to make Australia even better, whether we've been great in the past or not, but I don't know. But I want it to be a lot better in the future. I think Jacinta Price's problem is that she's been made the Minister for Doge. She's the governor, straight out of the Trump playbook, wanting to sack lots of public servants straight out of the Trump playbook. I don't mind someone wanting to make Australia great or make Australia great again, but you can't use a slogan like that, implement policies like that and be surprised that people join the dots.
Everyone's participation tonight, thanks to our panel, Zali Steggall, Rashina Campbell, Claire O'Neill, Michael Sukkar and Richard Dennis.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our latest research and work, sign up to our newsletter. Delivered every fortnight, it includes behind-the-scenes updates from Richard Dennis, an exclusive cartoon from Judy Horacek, details for our upcoming events and webinars, as well as explainers, graphs, and not to mention the latest cutting-edge research and analysis from the team here on the key issues that are facing Australia. Click the button on your screen to check it out.